History Secrets.
In recent decades, the global political system has undergone profound transformations. Some analysts argue that part of the behavior of major powers, especially the United States, can only be understood through a deeper logic. A logic that is not always explicit, but that shapes strategic decisions in a consistent way. According to some interpretations, what is often perceived as arrogance may actually be a reflection of structural positioning within the international system. A position of dominance, influence, and global responsibility. When a country occupies a central position in the world order, its decisions tend to have impacts far beyond its own borders. Economic decisions, military actions, diplomatic strategies, all of these can affect multiple regions simultaneously. This creates a type of behavior that, from the outside, may appear unilateral, or even insensitive to the interests of other nations. But from an internal perspective, these actions may be seen as necessary to maintain stability within the system itself, preserving alliances, protecting trade routes, maintaining influence. Some scholars argue that large powers often operate under a different perception of risk, because the cost of inaction can be interpreted as greater than the cost of intervention. Within this logic, acting decisively, even in controversial ways, may be understood as a strategy to prevent larger instabilities, or to preserve a favorable balance of power. Another important factor is the historical experience of each nation. The United States, for example, developed throughout the 20th century as a central actor in multiple global conflicts, world wars, Cold War, regional interventions. These experiences helped shape a strategic culture based on projection of power, technological superiority, and global presence. In this context, maintaining leadership may require constant demonstration of strength, both to allies and to potential adversaries. This dynamic can create what some analysts describe as a cycle of reinforcement. The more a country acts to maintain its position, the more it is expected to continue acting in the same way. Over time, this can generate perceptions of arrogance, especially when actions are taken without broad international consensus. But it is also important to consider that the international system itself lacks a central authority. There is no global government capable of enforcing rules uniformly. This means that, in many situations, countries act based on their own interpretation of security and interest. For a dominant power, this often translates into a greater willingness to intervene, to shape outcomes, to influence global events. However, this behavior can generate resistance. Other nations may perceive these actions as threats to their own sovereignty, or as attempts at domination. This creates a dynamic of tension, where actions intended to maintain stability can, paradoxically, generate instability. Another relevant aspect is the difference between internal and external perception. Internally, actions may be justified as necessary, strategic, defensive. Externally, the same actions may be interpreted as aggressive, unilateral, or disproportionate. This divergence of perception is a common feature of international politics, and it helps explain why the same event can be interpreted in radically different ways depending on the observer. From a structural point of view, the behavior of major powers often follows patterns: maintenance of influence zones, protection of economic interests, containment of rivals. These patterns are not exclusive to any single country. They appear throughout history in different empires and global powers. The difference lies in scale. and in the technological and economic complexity of the contemporary world. In a highly interconnected system, local actions can have global consequences. Conflicts can affect markets. Alliances can reshape regions. Decisions can reverberate across continents. This increases the pressure on major powers to act, to anticipate risks, to respond quickly to emerging challenges. But it also increases the margin for error and the potential for unintended consequences. In this sense, what is often labeled as arrogance may, in part, reflect the difficulty of managing power in a complex and unstable system. A system where every decision involves trade-offs, costs, risks, and uncertainties. Understanding this logic does not necessarily mean agreeing with it too, but it may help explain why certain behaviors persist over time, and why global politics often unfolds in ways that seem contradictory or difficult to predict. The search to understand the past has always been part of the human journey. We explore ruins, decipher ancient inscriptions, and investigate forgotten accounts. Each discovery expands our understanding of the civilizations that came before us, but it also reveals new questions. Questions that continue to drive our curiosity. Because history is not just a record of the past. It is a continuous path of discovery. Because some secrets of history are still waiting to be revealed.